Welcome everyone to another episode in the series Business Planning for Your Community Resource Centres, brought to you by the Department of Regional Development and Westlink TV. My name's John Denton, and today we're going to be helping you to complete the Situational Analysis and Achievements section of the business plan. We're going to be helping you to do an analysis of the community needs and how the CRC can address those needs, and look at some of your past achievements as well. And today I'm going to be ably assisted in this by Ros Worth from Department of Regional Development. Hi Ros.
Thank you, John.
And Andrew Huffer from Andrew Huffer and Associates, and Andrew's now going to get the ball rolling and get us started.
Beautiful.
Andrew.
Thanks, John. Good to be back with you all, folks, and hope you've been really enjoying the first 3 episodes so far. As John mentioned, we're going to do a bit of a recap about episode 3 and really focus on helping you to understand the characteristics of your community today by looking at some of the demographics. We'll get into do a full SWOT analysis and also talk about the importance of putting it out there with your achievements. So that's where we're really going to be working today. And in saying that, we're pretty much 40% of the way through the 10 episode program. And with that, each episode you should be looking to update your workbook and also update your business plan as we come along with that. And importantly, have a chat to your colleagues about each part of you're developing with the business plan and pop that in there so it's developing each and every episode you come along. So by the end of it, we're going to have a pretty darn good business plan finished off, I reckon. And as we go forward from last week, we did a lot on products and services. So we'll have a quick look at that now. So in products and services, we identified the market segments and their needs. And we used here the cafe example, thinking about all the different people that would come into a cafe and their different needs, and adapted that for your own community resource centre. So you should be on top of that now. We also talked about communicating our offerings and doing that so it actually provides a benefit to the people you're trying to get in to your CRC. And the final thing we looked at was actually developing measurable outcomes. And John, your mantra is, if it can't be measured, it doesn't exist.
How can you improve it? Exactly right.
Exactly. So that's a quick recap of episode 3. And again, by this stage, you should have had the opportunity to talk about that with your colleagues, update both your business plan, as well as get it all down in your workbook. So that's where we've got to so far. John, I'm going to hand over to you to take us through, to kick us off with looking at understanding community needs and going deeper.
Okay, Andrew. So now we're going to get into some community analysis. And on page 10 of the workbook, you'll see that it gives you some examples there of sources of information. So the first thing, if you're going to do an analysis, is you've got to know where you can go to get information. So the first place to go, I recommend, is the Australian Bureau of Statistics website. It's at www.abs.gov.au, and it's a great source of free information, basically. So all the census data that ABS collect, they put into a format where you can download and, as I say, get an amazing amount of data and information. And I've got some examples that I printed off this morning from the ABS site, just to give you some idea of the kind of things and what you can do with it. I took a local shire and had a look at the population breakup for that shire. And one of the interesting things that came out of it was that the largest age group in that particular shire were between 45 and 54 years old. But the other interesting thing was that the second largest group were in the 20 to 29-year-olds. So immediately you can see 2 parts of the community, 2 demographics, where the CRC should be thinking about what services those age groups need. So that's just one example, but from ABS you can get information about culture and language and families and the whole breakup, so you've got good, clear data to start doing your planning. Another good place to go is this website here called ID the Population Experts. And what they've done is they've basically taken the ABS census data and interpreted it and put it into some meaningful dialogue. So it, for the layman, you don't have to go through all the numbers and statistics. They will do that for you. And they also do forecasting on population growth, economic development and so on. But it is a commercial site, and you may need to pay to get some of that information. Not everything is for free, unfortunately. Another great source of information are the local shires, of course, and quite often on their website, or you can go to the local shire and they will provide you with data on businesses in the area, home-based businesses, and a whole lot of other statistics. And chambers of commerce, of course, come into that category as well. And on top of all of that, you can always do your own surveys, and I know that quite a few of the CRCs use SurveyMonkey as a tool for collecting data. You can develop your own questionnaire, your own survey very quickly, very easily and very cheaply, and then put it out to people and gather your own information about specific things that you want to know.
It's a great system, that one. You can generate reports and graphs and all sorts of things from that. It's just so easy to use.
And one of the good facilities within SurveyMonkey is that you can resend the survey to the non-respondents. So you're not forever contacting those who are already responding. So it makes it more meaningful as well.
Yeah.
And regional development commissions is another source of info I tap into quite a bit as well. So they have good localised information for your region. So that's one I found really useful. So
Good. So there's no shortage of sources of information.
Absolutely.
And there were some ideas on page 10 of the workbook as well.
Yeah, and I guess there's the real estate community as well.
Yeah.
What's happening, people selling, renting. Is there some sort of other, large mining activity that's occurring and likely to bring another influx of another type of group to the community? All those kind of variables. So it's good just to have those little conversations locally as well.
Yeah, for sure. Talk to people, that's the answer, isn't it? TTMP, talk to more people.
Well, talk to people, not just text them.
Not just social media and stuff.
My God.
But also with SurveyMonkey, you can print hard copy as well. So for people who aren't on the internet, you can print a hard copy survey.
Yeah.
And some of the things that you may want to consider, like Ros was just talking about with the population moving into and out of the area. Age, we've already talked about. Sex, if I dare use that word, males and females. Again, it all helps to understand your area and your community. Regional growth, most shires have a economic development officer who can provide great information on regional growth.
Yep.
And economic development, which I already mentioned. Tourism, information. Some areas obviously attract more tourists than others, but there's some great sources of information and useful things that can come out of that in terms of services the CRC can provide. Local environment, again, different parts of the state have different requirements as far as looking after the environment go and things that the CRC can do for the environment. And community needs, education opportunities, what gaps are there in education and traineeships and things like that. Feel free to chip in, Andrew and Ross, if you...
I think you're doing a fine job.
Good. Yeah.
I'm feeling superfluous right now, but that's okay.
And of course technology, because technology is advancing all the time and the CRC is in a great position to introduce locals to new technology and new facilities, which they may not otherwise get hold of.
And that's one thing I've really picked up with the CRCs. They're pretty much at the cutting edge most of the time with good hardware, software that's constantly upgraded. So, for a local business, I don't have to go and invest in all that stuff. I can just pop down the CRC, get that thing done. Things like the video conferencing, just bring it. It would save me literally thousands of dollars to drive to Perth and back in terms of time and money and lost salary and all that sort of stuff. So I reckon that's a great example of where CRCs have got that competitive edge. And to be honest, all the CRCs out there, I think that's something you should really be pushing a bit more because you've just got the market sewn up.
And it enables businesses in those communities to do business with people in the CBD as well.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
Fantastic. And of course what's happening in the economy in the local community as well. Because again, that can provide some really, really good direction for services that the CRC can provide. So there's plenty of sources of information. There are plenty of areas where you can use that information to look at the services that the CRC is going to provide. So now to look at some of the strengths and weaknesses and opportunities of the CRC. Andrew, take us through the SWOT process if you would, please.
Bring it on. We right back in our first episode, we covered the SWOT in a pretty broad sense, I suppose. So now is a good opportunity to revisit that and really go deeper in some more detail about what really makes your CRC stand out and where are the opportunities to take you further forward into the future and to incorporate those into your business plan as well. So we'll do a bit of work on that today, and we'll have some practical examples that we'll work through from CRCs right across the state, and we'll intertwine them in, and we'll draw on each other's experiences with different CRCs to help you think about your own CRC. So just to start off with, that if you look at what a SWOT is, it's talking about what are the strengths and opportunities, what are some of the weaknesses and threats. That sounds like SOUT, but it's actually, we look at what are some of the strengths and weaknesses of your CRC. And by strengths and weaknesses, we're talking about those in the current, they're really looking at your CRC currently and talking about what's going on within your CRC. Whereas opportunities and threats are often looking at what's happening outside the CRC and what you may be looking at in the future. So just bear that in mind as we go through this exercise, that strengths and weaknesses are usually an internal thing and opportunities and threats are generally an external type of factor.
The other thing with that as well, I think, Andrew, is I always tell people that, particularly with the weaknesses and the threats, to, like red wine, use it in moderation. You need to go through it, but don't overdo it.
Yep.
And focus more on the strengths and the opportunities.
Yeah, so looking at what's possible rather than thinking of all the dark side all the time.
Correct, yeah.
Good.
What's the thing about the jelly beans, Andrew?
The jelly beans, well, remember the yellow jelly beans are all about opportunities, and the black jelly beans about the
that
dark
was
side.
the exercise we did before.
Yeah,
Very
you were
good.
there.
Representation of Edward de Bono's thinking caps.
Yes, I remember seeing John there at the time. Can you remember him there? Anyway, moving along.
Okay.
Don't work with children and animals. Okay, so let's start off with strengths. And strengths are really a good question to help get your mind focused there, is thinking about what are the things you really need to build on? What is it we've got in place now that we need to build on it and take further? So let's throw around some strengths that we've seen of CRCs across the state, and I want you to think about, do I have one of those strengths? I'm sure there's things that I'm doing that are way better than those other CRCs, and they're the sort of things we want you to capture. Got a good, strong sibling rivalry, I reckon. Some strengths that you've seen, Ros or John?
Experienced staff and dedicated staff, committed staff. That's certainly a strength of the CRC network, and staff that just continue to give their all to their communities.
Yeah, a lot of the above and beyond type of stuff, isn't it?
Mm.
Yep.
So being part of the CRC network as well is a strength for all of them, I would say, to have that interaction and gain experience from each other. So,
just going back to Roz's example of the above and beyond, one thing I saw with the CRC is they got approached, I think it was on a Thursday afternoon, one of the local community members had a death in the family, and they rang the printer and said, we need the booklets done for the funeral, we need them by Tuesday. They said, no, we can't do them. And that was the answer. So they rang the CRC, come in, got the whole thing down, sat down with them, got it laid out, everything done, bang, out by Monday, ready to go, no questions asked. Just fantastic service. So to me, that's a real strength that I'm a local and I'll look after my locals, whereas printer dudes.
That's right, they're very committed.
Yeah.
Very committed and supportive of their communities.
yeah, we talked about it before, but the IT facilities as well,
Yeah.
and being up to date with technology, that can be a real strength because the whole community can benefit from that and learn from it. So that's a good one.
The other thing I've picked up a lot on is the local focus, and I know I've mentioned Mucka, I think it's called Muck and Boodin, its real name. Look at their website, you can get a lot of online, you can order a lot of Mucka type paraphernalia online, so you can get Mucka pictures, Mucka stubby holders, Mucka tea towels. So if you've got friends that come from around that area, it'd be a fantastic gift for them. So I think a lot of CRCs are doing really good work in providing a localised focus, but also building the brand of the local area. So I think that's one real strength that I'm seeing increasingly from a lot of the CRCs.
And I think another strength is the very competent CRCs will do a skills matrix and see perhaps where there may be gaps in their expertise, and then try and seek out that experience to be able to value add to what they offer as well.
So we'll have the conversation now about a bit of the black jelly bean, the dark side. And this is really being quite honest about the weaknesses that you must address, and this goes for any business, but same with the CRCs. What do you guys see as some of the weaknesses that are out amongst there? Not naming names, of course.
Or not seen as delivering specific services for their community. Yeah, perhaps just more an agency that's looking after that agency than one that's looking after the broader community. And perhaps their focus is more on the strengths or interest of the staff. So that may be targeted more to a specific group within the community, an age group or a youth group, whatever. So perhaps not daring to be so bold and look a little bit broader at how they can look at the wider interests and services of their community.
Yep.
Yes, another one that comes up as well is ageing board members. So the group that are looking after the CRC are getting older, even older than me, and so that's a challenge for some of them as well, is attracting younger people to the board.
Yeah. And a lot of communities we deal with, it's often the same people who are on the CRC or on a number of other committees, so it's hard work for them just to be on yet another committee and do more and more work with the responsibility, and as well as that, the ageing issue. I think there's the burnout issue that they're starting to experience.
And I think that sort of links into another weakness, is if they don't know how to look after a particular identified group within the community, they may not service or explore what they can do for that. So it just kind of becomes a little shadow area, instead of perhaps linking with other community interest groups in how they can work together and what they can do. So it goes into the too hard basket in thinking that they need to provide all the answers, whereas they maybe just need to be a resource and linked to other agencies in the nearby towns perhaps, or their own community.
The other thing I've seen, which is both a strength and weaknesses of quite a few CRCs, is location. Sometimes they've got prime location where there's other services, or right next door to, say, a post office or part of a post office. And others, they're off the main drag in a place that people don't normally go to, and that can be a real hard gig for them to actually get a presence, I suppose.
I must admit, for us, heading out of Perth into the regions, we always arrive in the town and then trust the signage to lead us to wherever the CRC is, which is really interesting because locals, as you mentioned, will understand or know where it's located around behind the back street, etc. But for tourists, which is a large clientele group, if that sign is not relevant, if it still says telecentre, not community resource centre, heaven forbid.
Don't mention the war.
I know. Or just not pointing in the right direction. So it's quite interesting, that a lot of CRCs just kind of think, look, everybody knows we're here in our community, full stop.
Yep. And when Andrew becomes president of the world, all road signage will be designed by somebody from outside of a different town.
Yes.
Especially in Perth.
Yep.
Anyway, I'll get over myself and move on. How about, let's look at, John rightly says, where we should really be focusing is on where are the opportunities, and they're really things, what are some of the things we really need to take advantage of in the future, because that's where I believe any business and any CRC should be constantly looking. And I know, John, that for you, one of your great sayings is about leadership is having one is like being in a boat where you've got one hand on the tiller and the other, your eyes on the horizon. I reckon that's a really good way of looking at what opportunities are, is thinking, what's on the horizon there?
Yes, that's right. Now you've taken my quote away. I'll explain what it means. Keeping your hand on the tiller is really, looking after the day-to-day, but whilst having a vision for the future as well. So the opportunities are really about looking down the track at what's coming and using that analysis that you did earlier to find some opportunities. So a big one is partnering, partnering with the Shire, partnering with business, partnering with other organisations, and even co-creating things, co-create events and expos and things like that. So there's lots of things that can be done if you just get a few heads together and brainstorm.
And that I reckon that co-creation is just a great example of where you can pull in the different strengths of the different organisations to utilise and make sure you're not having to do every single thing, but can break up the tasks that way.
Yeah, absolutely. As a team, you can achieve far more.
Yeah.
So, and involve the community as well, of course, getting as many of the local people involved in things. And again, that's all PR for the CRC, and it's getting the message out there that the CRC is here and they're here to look after you.
And I think if you work well with certain pockets of the community, look at the pockets that perhaps you're not addressing so well, and then put an active plan in place or contacts or co-partnership to see how you can engage with those groups, those pockets. Yeah.
And get an understanding of what value that provides as well. Is it really going to take you forward, or is it just going to be a lot of effort for not much return?
Yeah.
So there's probably some of the realities to keep in mind as well.
But I know some of the CRCs produce like local newspapers, community newspapers and things like that as well, which is a great service for the community because businesses can advertise, and it's just something that a commercial operation probably wouldn't do on their own. But through the CRC they can do it and get some income from advertising.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it's
Sure.
interesting because recently Lake Grace had their 18th anniversary of their newsletter, and so it actually becomes a history as well of what's happened in that community. And that was a wonderful celebration for that community.
And it's a great opportunity you mentioned there, just a newsletter. Just people love the local newsletter. That's one of the first things they'll always grab and go through. And I'm often travelling and staying places like Cogenant. They've got a fantastic local newsletter style paper, and they actually provide it for free in the motel. It's such a deal, but it's just a great way for when I'm down there to find out what's going on with who, what are people up to, what are some of the awards they've won, all that kind of thing. It's like I said, it's a good history, but also a great way to connect with. So for me as a traveller and somebody doing business down there, it's a really good resource. So for CRCs, it's a great way for them to connect with businesses as well.
And also, when we were talking about situational analysis at the very beginning, like it's a good way that a CRC can connect with new community members on their arrival in town by having a welcome meet and greet pack, and also having a real sense, because obviously the data's out every couple of years, but that gives them a really meaningful day-to-day contact with what's happening in their community. Oh, this family's moved in, these families are departing, whatever, but it just also gives new arrivals a sense of that community and where to go and who can support them.
Yeah,
That's a great one, yeah.
definitely.
So lots of opportunities.
Yeah, let's taint this all now with a bit of threats, a bit of dark side. But this is really just to, I guess, threats are to make sure that we're not just looking at everything through the rose-coloured glasses. We are being realistic that there are some things that are coming up that we're going to have to look at, and try to minimise their impact on the CRC. So some threats that you've seen facing CRCs across the state. Any examples there?
I have a really good one, I believe, is
Of course.
the expectation of community that a CRC will provide the services for free.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting concept that not-for-profits are essentially not meant to make profits, so why are you charging me? And yet, obviously, there needs to be a fee to cover for the services so that the, that agency can continue. So it's an interesting mindset that some of the community have, particularly if they're aware they may be funded by government. Well, look, why can we not have our photocopying done for free? Why can we not have access to video conferencing? Why do we pay? So it's about the comfortability of the people within the CRC being comfortable to say, look, we need to cover this service so we can continue to provide it.
Yeah, and it'd be good actually to hear some ways to deal with that when you get asked that question. And I think often to me it's about really explaining the value that we provide and the benefit we provide to people. I'm saving you having to actually drive to the next town to do this. So I'm actually saving you $30 minimum a day.
Yeah, it's selling them on the benefits
Yeah.
of what the CRC provides. So a little bit later when we look at the achievements and things like that, then that's, it's a question of letting the community know what the CRC's actually achieved and what the benefit is. I think another threat as well is the population. In some areas the population's declining, and particularly the younger part of the demographic, and that's something to be aware of. I'm not sure what the CRCs could do to change that.
I think be mindful and link with many groups across the communities so that their group that they may be targeted a lot of their services to, obviously when they move on, what will validate the CRC being there. So it's important to link across all different age groups and demographics within their community.
And going back to that question of demographics, does it mean the CRC that you'll need to think about changing the services you provide? If that demographic is changing, your services will need to change with it. So,
yeah, that's right. I mean, look at trends as well. So the T can not only stand for threats, but stand for trends.
Yep.
Trends in technology, and it's becoming a lot easier now to get internet access, good internet access in the remoter regions, particularly with the NBN or whatever's happening with that. I'm not quite sure now, but something will happen to give the remoter areas better internet access. So then maybe some of the services that the CRC provides at the moment could come under threat. But again, it's a question then of adding value to those services.
Yeah.
Finding ways to add value.
Yep, for sure.
And diversify.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's enough threats, is it?
I reckon we've covered it pretty well. But the thing I like is that we've been looking at threats, but looking at how do we address those threats and how do we turn them into an opportunity. So I think that's probably one of the critical things, that a really well-run CRC can actually turn those threats into an opportunity. And if you can do that, then you're really on the right track and doing some good stuff.
Yeah, it's a good point. A lot of businesses have actually made their business by addressing some of those things that are happening in the economy or in the environment and turning it into a business opportunity.
Yep.
So rather than see it as a problem, see it as an opportunity.
For sure.
Okay.
And speaking about the good things that are happening, let's talk about achievements and what CRCs can do about how they should work with their achievements. John?
Well, the thing is to be proud of your achievements and to write them down, document them. As we said before with newsletters, that's a good way of keeping a history of the achievements, and put good news stories into the newsletters about people in the community, what they've achieved, how the CRC has helped business and individuals. So document them, publicise them. Obviously you may need to get people's permission sometimes, but get every single thing that you've done documented, because then when you have your board meetings, again, you can demonstrate what you're achieving. When you want funding from the government, you've got a list there of the things that have actually been outcomes. And a lot of those, just some examples, I mean, working with the Shire on expos and events and providing Shire services, training up local people either in the CRC or helping employers to get training for people. So there's a whole raft of things that the CRCs do, and it's like in business, sometimes we don't actually remember the good stuff.
Yeah. We just take it for granted.
Yeah.
That's it, that's what we do, so we take it for granted.
Yeah.
And I think remember to send it into the department as well, so that our marketing can include it in the CRC newsletter for all other agencies. And I think often the euphoria of a good event, after that event's concluded, like they're then focusing on the next project. So often it's good to pre-write something about an event or a success story, and then then review it and fill in the facts and add photos, etc. as well. So, and it's always good to send those on into the community newspapers in their local region. It's a further extension of the newsletter, so it's just a little bit of a wider distribution there, and upload on their website because that works 24/7 for everybody.
The other thing with that is, I think, the opportunity for a lot of CRCs is using video of success stories to do some of those quick sort of interviews of somebody who's been involved in a project, what they've got out of it, bang it up onto the website, link it into the DRD one, and off you go.
Testimonials.
Yes.
Very
exciting
good.
stuff. And you can do those with those, what are they called, a smartphone or something like that? It's new thing. It has a camera and stuff in it.
And you could extend that by having the loop tape at a CRC, because a lot of them have the great Westlink TV, and so maybe in between programs they can have a loop tape happening of all their success as well, and for the local community.
And
to
they've got
view.
some exceptionally good staff at Westlink TV, so I'm sure they'd love to look after you with that.
Most definitely.
Without a doubt.
And of course, as we said before, you need to be able to measure things to be able to improve them. So when it comes to achievements as well, don't forget to record all the financial achievements of the CRC, and and document them, show growth, measure what's happening. It can be financials in terms of income. It can be people turning up for events, people using the CRC. Capture all that data and use that to feed back to people what's actually being achieved. But it's a great motivator for people in the CRC themselves and for the staff to know that things are being achieved. It's just like in business.
Yep, for sure.
Positive feedback.
And I think the other thing is, in addition to recording those numbers, is get some record of what the outcomes were of what you've done. So we had this expo. What did it actually lead to? What was the change that people have made? Or we ran this, and again, I think there's one of the great southern CRCs had a Facebook training for grandparents to keep in touch with their grandkids. So you could do some really good follow-up stuff with the grandparents about how they're connected with their grandkids, what have been the outcome for them. So there's stuff like that I reckon you could easily connect into and just go ask the next question of, what has this led to?
Yeah, so what did that mean for you? What did that mean for you?
That's right.
Brilliant. So, yes, don't be shy at putting down what you've achieved and what the outcomes have been. That's all great motivational information and good marketing information as well.
Totally.
So, anything else you want to add on?
Well, yeah, if you don't promote your own achievements, no one else is going to, and someone else will promote their achievements instead. So,
and don't be bashful.
No, definitely not.
Just summarising, I guess, some of the things that we've said on achievements. Think about staff training. I know a lot of the CRCs provide training for their staff and get them into certificates and nationally recognised training and all kinds of things. New products and services that have been introduced. Joint ventures, so things that have been set up with local shires, local businesses, and events. We talked about that and the numbers at events. So there are plenty of things that you can put into your achievements category. Keep a folder, just document it.
Yep. Yeah.
I think we've labelled that point.
I reckon. I think the message is getting through.
Okay. So let's just summarise what we've done today. We've talked about understanding the characteristics of your community, and this is all part of the situational analysis part of the business plan. So really getting a detailed understanding of who's in the community and what their needs are. And then we talked through the SWOT process for the CRC. So how well is the CRC set up to meet the needs of the community through the analysis that we've just done? And then we've looked at and talked about recording your achievements, using them as a motivator, using them for PR and so on. So we've covered quite a lot of ground. So the thing to do now is to go away and digest all of that and work in the workbook and get your board together. And in the next episode, we're going to be talking about brainstorming. So brainstorming, not brain snapping. Okay, so brainstorming is a great technique for planning and coming up with projects for the CRC to go into. So brainstorming is the next episode, and then you can see here going forward we're going to be talking about how those projects link into DRD outcomes. What are the outcomes from those projects? We're going to be prioritising as well.
That's right. So
in the next episode.
So
it's all very well coming up with a lot of projects, but which ones do you do first?
Exactly. So some good tools to help people identify ideas for projects and then make sense of what's the most important one there.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that episode. It'll be
You'll be back
fun.
for it?
But yeah, it's interesting.
Oh, good. Ros, you'll be back for it? You won't be on holiday or anything?
No, not this time.
Looking forward to it.
All right. That's great. So we look forward to seeing you all on the next episode.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you soon. Have a good one. It's goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
Goodbye from her.